is Norm. Introduce yourself.
I'm Norman Jester. I'm the Vice President of SANDRA and a Meshtastic enthusiast as well as a ham radio operator. And tonight we're going to delve into the sort of intro to Meshtastic and maybe cover some real simple topics and maybe some advanced topics and to see where it goes. But I put a slideshow together, but go ahead, John.
All right, Herb, introduce yourself.
Watch out with your computer, baby.
Mike. Mark Salmon, AJ6, and he's the guy you need to see for tickets. I got more tickets to sell.
I should note that for the raffle tonight, we have 4 Meshtastic nodes. 2 of them are custom with SANDRA on them. So they have a custom case made by my friend right here, who did an excellent job. Let's give him a round of applause for him. And we also have 2 build-it-yourself Meshtastic node kits, which are really easy to build. It takes a couple of minutes, but so we've got 2 of the custom ones, we've got 2 of the do-it-yourself kits, and we have 2 tri-band handhelds.
Tri-band handhelds.
So tonight's the night to get the raffles. So if you guys want more tickets, let Mike or my son know, and we'll get them done.
All right. So what I'd like to do is I'd just like to quickly go around the room. Everybody, introduce yourselves, and then I have a little something to say about the 220 spectrum that has recently occurred, and then we'll move on into the presentation. So, Ray.
I'm Ray, WA6NBL, Spring Valley.
John, WA6 PTO.
Speak up, but
Right. Steven, KG6BXN, Coronado.
Ron, KE6NFX, La Mesa.
KG6 BHP, Robert, N9SCE, Near Mesa. That's my way. There's another way.
welcome.
KE6 BBI, like that. 7 AEW.
That's it.
Don N6NLX, Pacific Beach.
Jason, K Bravo 3 Echo Romeo Sierra, La Mesa.
Chris W6CSK, San Diego. Ken, K7YXZ, Portland.
Okay, go.
John, KO6FIS, Escondido. David, Whiskey 1 Delta Victor Romeo, San Diego.
Dennis, N1TEN, Sierra Mesa.
Nestor, N6CKC, Oklahoma. Mark, N2HAM,
John, N6IMI, La Mesa.
Derek, KO6EJD from Laser.
I'm Vance, the WD9C from Point Loma.
Mike, Kilo Golf 6, Tango Delta Papa. I'm John, KK6 VLO, El Cajon.
Steve, K6RSH, Bonita.
I don't have a license. My name's Jacob. Hi.
That's my son, Jacob Jester. He's sent here to help with raffle tickets and the film.
Yep.
And Phil.
And I'm Ted Can, 6RCZ, top of the hill.
All right.
You're close.
Very good. Thank
You're
you.
real close.
Thank you all for coming tonight. One thing I want to say from Sandra, and we had hoped that Ed would have brought some photographs to show you, but recently there's been the tech committee's done a lot of work up on Laguna, and I understand they just repaired the 220 antenna. It was had a little problem, but anyways, Laguna's been upgraded with a new repeater and some antennas. And so it should be working much better for you. And we're going to continue upgrading our systems as money allows. So
And they're rock solid on Laguna.
perfect. That's great. Yeah, Laguna was always a big repeater for me when my father was alive, because he and I used to go to the desert and fish the canals a lot. So, talking back to Larry, LAW, and those guys, So. Switching hats for just a moment. Not only am I the president of SANDRA, but I'm also president of the 220 SMA, which is the coordination board, coordination body for the 220 spectrum. And recently there has been some interesting testing going on. The FCC gave a test, that's not really accurate. They gave a license to a company that's doing kind of research and development on radar in the 220 spectrum. They have a license to test between 222 and almost 224. And so, yeah. And so this recently popped up because, as you can imagine, trustees and repeaters, we all talk to each other. And so I got a call from Skip Bloomer, who is with LA County Sheriff's DCS, Disaster Communication Service, and they were getting interference on their 220 system. And what was really odd was one of the stations was directly across the street from Skip's house. So he's watching these antennas go up, and he's like, "What is this going on?" Anyways, with lots of investigation, we found that this company has been authorized by the FCC to do testing in the 220 spectrum, doing radar, and they have 3 different sites they're doing. Well, they were contacted and said, "Hey, you're in the middle of the ham ban, and we have a plethora of ham radio repeaters in Southern California that you can potentially cause interference to." So the vice president of the company shut it off because first of all, we're primary on the 220 spectrum. If you didn't know, when the big UPS, I might be talking green to a lot of folks, but back in the day, we had 220 to 225. And some years ago, the FCC reallocated 220 to 222 and gave it over to the United Parcel Service to do a amplitude comparative sideband system. And so, anyways, that didn't go anywhere. I mean, technology blew past that real fast. So that spectrum kind of sitting there, not doing a whole lot. When that occurred, though, the hams got priority in the 222 to 225 spectrum. So that means we have primary, we're not sharing it with another service. Like in the 440 spectrum, a lot of people don't know, we have to share that with the military. So, and I could tell you stories that have happened with other things, but anyway, my point is they cannot interfere with the primary user of that spectrum. And we tracked it down and found that the license was actually issued not by the Wireless Bureau. It was issued by their there's another bureau of the FCC that does research and development kind of stuff. And so they're the ones that issued the license. So we're trying to track this down. But I told the FCC's now got a complaint on this. I told them that, it's in the beach area over, not far from where the fire was, 3 sites. You're looking over the water. I mean, there is such a thing called ducting. So there's a risk to any of the 220 repeaters in Southern California. And I was just notified tonight that one the ATV, amateur television 220 repeater, is now receiving interference from these folks. They're running 4 kilowatts, by the way. And if you were to listen on the spectrum, if you listen, you would hear a 20-second burst, a noise burst, on and off. That's their signal, and they have 3 sites, so they're looking for echoes back to those sites. It's very interesting, and it's actually on the internet. You can look at their. So we're working on that, but I'm trying to make people aware that I'm actually going to be sending out a letter from 220 SMA to all the coordinated repeater trustees about this, because one, if your system is seeing this, you need to file a complaint because it will cause interference to the input of your repeater. Are there any 220 repeater owners in here tonight? Anybody? I know at Cajon Club you got one. You're probably not going to get hit by it. But
Yeah, we got one.
yeah, you've got a 220 repeater. So
Sandra's got several.
we do have several, right? And I have four 220 repeaters myself across Southern California. So it's a big deal to us. And the users, if you use 220 at all, you risk, if like the Condor system. If you use Condor, there's a possibility because Condor's on Fraser, and one of their transmitters is looking right at Fraser. Yes.
With
Mike?
that power, is that enough to damage the receivers?
No, no, but it could overload it. Certainly, it's all captured, FM captured, and then a handheld coming in. Yeah.
So I'm retired Navy. Back in the 80s, I used to use the frequency band right below 220, and it was the top end of the TV spectrum. Channel 13. So we had like 6 frequencies we used on our air search radar, which was, I forgot how many kilowatts. But we couldn't use it near Miami or any other station like that. We had to wait till we were out of a certain range. So the Navy has the data on that band for air search radar.
And I think that's what they're doing is they have a new piece of software that they're working with. It's supposed to enhance what they used to do. So, and interestingly enough, Channel 13 in Los Angeles signed off and agreed to allow them to do this, which I thought was really weird, but whatever. So, anyways, that's your report. I thought maybe somebody might be interested. Okay. Any questions? That's done. So we're going to jump into the presentation. Feel free to continue your dinner, and also please remember, if you can, we're trying to offer more things for our meetings for people to possibly win, and to be able to do that, we have to be able to support that. So, anyways, yes.
I have one question with 13 parts. The first part is regarding the repair that was just done on the 220 antenna at Laguna.
Yeah.
My understanding was that ice probably fell on the cable or something.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Do we have something in the way so that can't happen again?
I don't think they put an ice shield up. Have you ever been to a repeater site?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know that some, like especially above microwave dishes and things, they'll put like kind of a half circular grid or something to try to protect it.
Okay.
Yeah, and so sometimes the antennas are not under those, and as ice falls, things heat up, falls off, there could be damage. Yeah.
I was just thinking if the cable was in an appropriate place, maybe just a little wedge above it, attached to the rail or something might do the job.
I didn't repair it, but you know,
I'm
the
sure
guys.
CRC probably did some work on it. Hopefully it won't happen.
Yeah, the guys that did the repair, they're pretty sharp on those mountaintop sites. Yeah. I have one of my repeaters is on Santa Rosa Mountain, which is 7,800 feet, and it gets a lot of ice. Now I'm at the top of the tower, but that doesn't stop ice from causing damage. Well, I went up and just changed out an antenna here a couple months ago, and the one that we took down was like this, and one of the elements was literally twisted from ice falling from the top element to the bottom element.
I rescind the last 12 parts.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes.
Real quick on Santa Rosa, is there anything pointing southward to where you're going? Any coverage?
Well,
Doesn't matter if it's Sandra machine or anything.
no, there's not a lot of ham stuff up there anymore. Yeah, there's a little, but not. There's I think the 224-100 was on Toro, but I believe is now on Santa Rosa.
Okay.
So you might check. That's on an Omni. Mine's on a 4-element dipole array pointing west. So you will get coverage into Borrego from there, but it's kind of off to the side. Yeah. Anything else?
What's the name of this company that's doing this testing on 220?
I don't remember right now, but I will get it to you. Yeah. But this is interesting reading.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
You're good.
Norm?
All right, you guys ready for some Meshtastic? Yeah, we got a lot of Meshtastic users in here. We even got John Hudson, his Meshtastic unit. It even has his name and call sign on it. And I kind of became a little bit obsessed with Meshtastic to the point where I actually made the Meshtastic anthem. And I'd like to start this off by playing this for you. And you'll notice that I'm into aliens. That's just sort of a thing. But my little alien logo is sort of a part of everything I do with Meshtastic. Before I started, I wanted to explain the name. My Meshtastic network is referred to the All Your Base Are Belong to Us network. And all of our nodes are All Your Base Are Belong to Otay, All Your Base Are Belong to San Miguel, All Your Base Are, so I named them basically in that kind of, theme. And it's become really sort of famous across the United States and in other countries, to the part where I've got copycatters now that are like starting up meshes in their own country with All Your Base Are Belong to with their own cities. So I kind of started a little fad, and it's kind of fun. But, I got obsessed with it to the point where, I'm putting nodes up everywhere. I mean, it's not a commercial exercise. This is a hobby like ham radio. And, I just want to show you first the little music video thing that I did. And I produced this song and I wrote it and stuff. And in here you'll see the head developer, the lead developer, Jonathan Bennett of Meshtastic in here. I actually make fun of his beard. So he likes it though. But hopefully you guys can hear this. I've got the speaker back here.
We got devices all around, off-grid network in the town, signals bouncing off the ground, aliens joining in the sound. Meshtastic in the air tonight, connected just right. Satellites light up the sky, communicating in the sound. Meshtastic in the air tonight, connected just right. Satellites light up the sky, communicating, we don't ask why. All your base are belong to us. Aliens whisper, feel the trust. Jonathan Bennett needs to shave. In this network we all rave. Packets flying never still, data moving at our will. Off-grid adventures give a thrill. In the mesh we fit the bill. From Earth to stars and back again, aliens mesh, it's not pretend. Jonathan's beard is just a trend. In this network, there's no end. All your base all belong to us. Aliens whisper, feel the trust. Jonathan Bennett needs to shave. In this network, we all rave. Belong to us. Aliens whisper, feel the trust. Jonathan Bennett needs to shave. In this network we all rave.
And that's it. Yeah. Just a little thing I threw together. It was fun, and people are using it as the theme music to their Meshtastic videos now, and a lot of the wording is just fun wordplay, but we're kind of happy with it. But so So the "All Your Base Are Belong to Us" comes from one of the oldest memes before the internet, where back up in the dial-up days, they started sharing GIF images of an old video game that came from Japan, and in the game they used improper English when they made the English version of the game, and all of these different sayings came out of the game, and "All Your Base Are Belong to Us" became like a really famous like meme to the point where you would go around and you would see people doing graffiti saying "All your base are belong to us," and you'd be sitting in a bathroom and somebody wrote it on the wall, or just all kind of different things. And there's a lot of videos on the internet where you can see all the creative morphs of that phrase that people created back in the 80s, and it's just a thing that I adopted and kind of gave some new life to. So anyways, that's it. And as I said before, I'm Norman Jester, KE6VDW, and here we have a lot of you guys here, Meshtastic already. Some of you don't, so I'm kind of gonna, wiggle back and forth between technical concepts and non-technical concepts. Meshtastic is an open source, off-grid, decentralized mesh communication network that uses really cost-effective, actually super cheap in some cases, low-power devices. There's no license required, but because you're a ham, you have the ability to put out more power and use more features, sans encryption. So you can't use encryption as a ham, we all know that. So you sort of lose that, but you do have more power output capability. Most people use it in the unlicensed mode, but there's a lot of applications for ham too. So this is a bridge type of technology. I'm a ham, my wife knows that because I can't hide it. I'm always buying radios. My whole house is full of them. And she saw something on like TikTok or whatever, and she's like, "Hey, this seems like it's something you'd be interested in." So she forwarded me this link to this new thing called Meshtastic. And that's how I discovered it. Thanks to my wife. I love you, Monique. I grew super interested in it, and I started deploying nodes everywhere. It was like an addiction. I don't know why I began doing it, because in the early days of Meshtastic, it sucked. It was so buggy, things barely worked, but it got better and better and better. And the worst thing about it is every time I had to debug something, I had to go back up a mountaintop, take it down, reflash the firmware. There's a lot of work involved in it. Arguably, everybody says, and I think it might be true, I run the largest single person owned mesh network in the United States and Mexico. I currently operate or provide sponsorship to over 116 nodes, and I've got 17 more that I just built that are going out now. I spend my money on these things because it's fun, it's exciting, it's something new. I own a wireless ISP, and because of that, I have an immense network of assets and access capabilities that enabled me to sort of hit the ground running with Meshtastic and just start putting them everywhere. Everyone's like, "How did you get it up there? Oh my God, it's so high, the elevation is great, that's the best node out there." And it's just because it's a side effect of what I do in my daily life. All of the tower sites you saw in the video are actually footage that I filmed with my drone when my crews are working there. So we have tower sites all over the place. Either I own them, I rent them, or I have partnerships in some capacity where I have access to them. This is my current fiber map. I own fiber all over Mexico, and I own a wireless network in the United States in southern San Diego. And the coverage capability that I have just as a single person is sort of a unicorn thing. There's not a lot of guys like me. Some of my colleagues have stuff like this as well. Some of them share space with me. But it gives me great capabilities. Use cases for Meshtastic. I kind of use it. I text my friends. We have talk groups. There's a lot of like hamish things that go on. People like radio check. The same thing happens on Meshtastic all day long. People are texting test, and everybody's replying copy, right? But then there's people who actually have conversations and share their daily happenings. I got a guy who sends me fortune cookie messages every day. And it's kind of cool because I look forward to getting them. I'm like, oh, I got another mesh message, right? It's unique. It's different than a cell phone text because it takes a lot more radio effort for it to actually get to you. And that is exciting because it's like, wow, I caught one. I got a message.
It's how I feel on fishing.
Yeah,
I caught
I caught one. It is a lot like fishing, but it's getting more reliable to where you put the hook in and now you're getting the fish constantly. So you can use like an APRS type of situation where you can share GPS, monitor location of your friends, off-grid weather stations, animal traps. I made a possum trap. I had a possum problem where my dog wouldn't go in our backyard, and he was scared of the possums. And I thought we just had one. It turns out we caught 3, and then there's actually more out there I still got to catch. But I made a possum trap that when the door would trap, it would send a Meshtastic alert to me on my node, and I would know that a possum was in there, so I didn't let it starve to death or sit in the cage forever. And I caught three possums that way. So it's kind of cool, you could wire up anything to it. The technology behind Meshtastic is called LoRa, which stands for long range. It's a modulation technique that utilizes the CHIRP spread spectrum technology. LoRa transmits small chunks of data at low data rates, which makes it not optimal for pictures or voice. It's really good for text and sort of, if you're familiar with the BBS days, that's what we're dealing with. ASCII and encoded messages, control signals, things like that, IoT devices, which LoRa is used for IoT devices. LoRa signals can propagate below the noise floor. The CHIRP modulation technique makes it really good for that. It penetrates a lot of the noise, and it makes such a unique frequency go very great distances, and it's kind of amazing. This is the preamble. This is the data packet headers of a CHIRP signal. This is basically the data headers, and you have in here the symbols, and you can go into a whole technical breakdown on it. But it's sort of like a UDP packet where it has its own data headers and everything, and it gets decoded on the remote end, and then all that. And on the right-hand side, you'll see what the waterfall effect looks like of a Meshtastic signal on a frequency analyzer or an SDR or an SD play. Here you'll actually see the actual frequency live in use, and tell me if you can see where they got the Meshtastic logo from.
You'll notice what looks like a bunch of forward and backslashes on the SDR's waterfall. These are the up chirps and down chirps of the chirp spread spectrum that LoRa uses.
So there you can see that the Meshtastic logo was actually derived from the frequency itself, from the pattern that it generates. And I can go back to the logo. See the logo there in the middle? So that's where it comes from. Now, Meshtastic terms, a node. What is a node? Any Meshtastic device is called a node. A node can be the device you carry in your pocket, in your car, in your purse, on your dog's collar. They make dog collars that are really nicely made, actually, to track your pet's whereabouts. You can tell when your dog eats because you can put a sensor on his dog bowl, and you can actually read it on the Meshtastic device, and then it'll transmit it back to you, so you know your dog ate.
Stop eating.
All of them are nodes. Even like this unit here. Let me move this out of the way. This is a super node. I'll explain this in a bit. But a node can be the device you carry in your hand. It can be a device on a mountaintop. It can be the device on your dog's neck. Bottom line is, a node is a node. There's a lot of different modes that you can program your node to communicate in. It can be a repeater, which is responsible for repeating. We all know what repeaters are, we're hams. You can program it as a client only, to where you use it just to communicate with a node local to you. Or you can set it up as a router and client, so it acts as both at the same time, sort of a repeater router client, where it kind of does all the functions. So setting a device into repeater mode sets it to a more power efficient and processing efficient mode, so that it can process everyone else's data at the same time more efficiently. That's the basis of a repeater node, and those are designed to be put on high altitude places. So if you got a high site, you want to put it in repeater mode, and you don't want a repeater at your house if you're down low. It doesn't help the network, it actually harms it. Meshtastic in America operates on the 915 megahertz unlicensed ISM band frequency. Hams have some access to that, and you can use higher power output, I think up to 10 watts. Frequencies are selected automatically depending on the name of the primary channel that you set up in your device. You can read up on that. We're operating at a default in the United States of 906 megahertz. So this device and this antenna happens to be tuned with a SWR that is the best at 906 megahertz. That's how I had this designed. Most transceivers are outputting 22 dB or 20 dB when in unlicensed mode. In licensed mode, you can use up to whatever Part 97 allows, which I think is 10 watts on ISM. The current ground level Meshtastic record is 205 miles. You believe that? 205 miles on a LoRa signal. That's pretty impressive for 950 megahertz.
20 element beam.
Yeah, just little stick antennas like this, actually. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It uses AES 256 encryption, so all your messages are encrypted, and it uses the security keys and everything. In addition, I should comment that you can actually set up your node management, so you can remotely manage your mountaintop nodes using security keys, which allow only you to administrate those nodes. It's channelized with 104 frequency slots, so you can have 104 possible different mesh networks on the ISM band. A lot of people just leave it as default and do a lot of private chats. Some people have set up their own private chat groups and stuff. I have a couple that I play with, but we're still kind of learning how we want to use all these things. There's the shot that was 205 miles. I don't have my glasses on, so I can't read the words from and to, but I do believe that record was broken. I was told that somebody hit 317 miles. I don't know where the proof of that is yet, but I've heard it from several different people. Meshtastic works by sending data packets that are transmitted by other nodes until it reaches its destination, hence mesh network. Think of it like a bucket brigade, carrying the message person to person until it reaches the end. The routing algorithm is called a flood routing algorithm. Now I should mention that they have added some new routing methodologies that they've started to play with, so that is likely to change in the current versions of the future versions of the firmware. When a node sees a packet, this term hop comes up. So there's a maximum of 7 hops. I'll turn it down. Somebody's radio got into this thing. Anyways, when a node transmits a message, it rolls a dice, like a random time slot, in order to avoid interference with other nodes transmitting. So it's kind of like in the old data days where you had a hub, not a switch, where you could have packet collisions. Flood routing does sort of a similar thing, but every time a node transmits, it sort of rolls a dice and picks a random time slot, and that's when it transmits. And if it doesn't have a successful transmission, it tries again. So that way the nodes are kind of rolling dice against each other, and that's how they avoid collisions. A node will not retransmit a message if it has already retransmitted it or the intended recipient of the packet has acknowledged it. So this is kind of like the basis of node routing, how it goes from one hop to the other. Pretty self-explanatory. This Strengths of Meshtastic. The radios are low power devices, less than a watt. This makes the radios with have a low probability of intercept. So let's just say the world went to war and you needed off-grid communications and stuff. It's a lot harder to like detect signals that are so low power. At least that's what they say. I know there's a lot of DF technology out there that can hone in on things, but sorry, there's water coming in here somewhere. Anyways, they don't consume a lot of power. They work excellent on solar, a wind farm. I mean, you could run them for months and months and months on a 100 amp hour battery if you wanted to. I should also say they can work as a standalone device, or you can pair it with your cell phone. So if you're wondering why you need a cell phone, it doesn't need a cell phone for anything really. The cell phone is more like your human input device. It's your typewriter. It allows you to type the messages, because most of the nodes, like this one for example, there's no keyboard. So I use my phone via Bluetooth to send and type the messages using the app that I install on it. And you can get nodes. Somebody in here has a LilyGo T-Deck Plus. It has a keyboard built in. I don't know if you want to hold it up so people can see it. But the T-Deck Plus, there you go. Yeah, it looks like a BlackBerry. No cell phone required, no SIM chip, no Wi-Fi, no Bluetooth even required. You can use it right like that, as is. The weaknesses of Meshtastic are that it is low power and it's 915 megahertz. The radio frequency at 950 megahertz will not penetrate large forests and brick and a lot of steel and stuff like that, like other frequencies might have luck getting through. Much of Meshtastic right now is also do-it-yourself heavy, which means a lot of people are making and building their own nodes from various components they pick up at hardware stores, and then they just sort of add the Meshtastic board into it. Who was it here that built the solar light node out of a Harbor Freight solar light? This gentleman over here went to Harbor Freight, got a solar light that came with a battery in it and everything, and he turned it into a Meshtastic node by adding the board and the antenna to it. And now he has a complete node, very inexpensive, very easy to do.
$16.
16 bucks, right? And what? I'm sorry.
With the solar.
With the solar panel, it came with the battery too, right?
The battery's a smaller battery. This is a 10 inch.
Oh, he put a bigger battery.
Right. My junk drawer.
All right. So the do-it-yourself thing is there. You can build your own, but now you go on Amazon, you can order these LilyGo devices and get them overnight, next morning, and they're ready to go out of the box. You don't have to build it yourself. The differences between Arden and Meshtastic. This comes up a lot. When I start talking about mesh, a lot of hams say, "Oh, you mean Arden?" And that's not it. Meshtastic has a much lower data rate. It's built on top of totally different technology, runs on a different frequency, and Meshtastic is more portable and much more economical. Arden requires a ham radio license. My personal experiences with Meshtastic, as you can see here, I'm standing in front of a tower in Calexico, right on the U.S.-Mexican border on the U.S. side, and that's like a 200-foot tower. On the right, there's a tower my guys are building, and we put Meshtastic nodes. Every time I send my guys out to do work for my company, I say, "Hey, put a node there. Hey, put a node there. Hey, put a node there," which is how I grew the network so fast. I mesh everywhere I go. I'm eating pizza, I'm meshing. I'm Halloween candy. I was sitting there handing out Halloween candy, and I was telling the kids about it, and I was sitting there messaging my friends to see who had more, Halloween visitors and stuff. So I do a lot of stuff. I give out challenge coins to people who do cool things. On the right, you see an official challenge coin that was given to me by NCIS, their cyber operations field office, for work that I did on a case with them. They awarded me with a challenge coin. I felt so proud of that. I'm like, I want to give challenge coins to people. And you know, I can't afford these fancy, I mean, those things cost like $150 each, the ones they give out. But we made our own. And Steven over here made the coins for me. Thank you very much. They came out great. And I give them to people who do excellent things.
3D printers.
Such as save our tower sites from fire.
Oh my gosh.
This is Otai. Just a month ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was a doozy. I gave the firefighters challenge coins. And they were very happy that I recognized their efforts. I went up there and drove around all the trails, and I shook their hands, and I met them, and I talked to them, and I understood their plight, all the stuff they have to go through, that when a fire's over, their work is not over. They still have to cut a hand line all around that fire. A lot of work. So there's me and Roy up there, hanging out with CAL FIRE guys, and on the right is a brigade of CAL FIRE guys that were walking around and cutting hot spots out and doing a hand line around the fire, making that perimeter. And then we go hunting. We look for new sites. Remember I said I was trying to bridge, I don't know if I said this, I was trying to bridge Arizona with San Diego. And my son right here, Jacob, and I went out to the middle of Superstition, in the middle of nowhere, in the dirt. And this is me filming with our drone. And we found some great towers, and I established contact with the owners of those towers. And now we're talking about putting Meshtastic repeater there to bridge Arizona and San Diego. So I'm always on the hunt for towers. And it's the most enjoyable part of my job and my hobby, as a matter of fact.
I think one of those towers belongs to IID, right?
Yes. Yeah, the other one is now privately owned. It used to be owned by the county of Imperial County.
They sold it?
They sold it, yeah. I guess they stopped using it, so now it's a private owner. This is a WISP block based solar node I installed in Mexico and Cerro, Colorado. A lot of you were watching the video while you were eating. That's the node that I installed on the top of that tower, and it has excellent coverage. People all the way down to Ensenada are seeing it. People in Los Angeles report seeing it. You know, again, it's just part of the joy of this hobby is going out to these crazy places and putting something there, knowing that, wow, I just did something cool that not a lot of people get to experience in their life. I go to all these tower sites. I feel like I went on vacation. I get to see new sites and interesting things. We even do work in the middle of the night. And hey, guys, you're going up that tower that we have to do a repair on? Stick a node there. This is down in Otay Mesa. This is just another little drone video I made.
And now with the following
Ignore the music. I had to stick something there.
Make your own sounds of Halloween, terrifying and terrible.
Those fishes, are those pointing down? Why are those fishes?
They're mounting them right now, so they could be, not aligned yet.
Oh, I like the jackets.
Yeah, you know what's cool about the jacket? The reason it's blinking is because my node has a light on it, and every time the light on my drone blinks, it looks like his jacket, his safety lines illuminate, so it looks like his jacket is electrified. That's my other son, Devin, wearing the jacket, by the way. So yeah, fun little videos. I don't know. Things you can do with Meshtastic that a lot of people don't really think about. You can run a BBS just like in the old days, just like in the dial-up days. You can have very rudimentary level communication systems, just like we did predating email, where we could
threw it away.
Yeah, right.
It's gone. Mustang BBS.
Right. Now it's back though. Now we can do it. Right now, I run a BBS on a Raspberry Pi with a LoRa Meshtastic Pi hat on it, and it runs Ubuntu Linux and it runs TC2 BBS software, and we can send private messages. So if you don't have your node with you or you're out of coverage and someone sends you a message, it can be done via a direct message on the BBS, and then when you're in the range, it'll tell you, oh, you've got a message waiting. So you can use the Meshtastic node to check your messages. And you can post public messages, urgent communications in a public forum. And it's sort of like, like the post boards in a supermarket where you can pin things, for other people to read. So you can integrate JS8 call with Meshtastic with the TC2 BBS. So there's a ham radio tie in there. You can do APRS style positioning, and you can. There's now a script where you can actually combine your ham radio APRS into Meshtastic, so it'll update your location in both places now. So you can do those things. You can have private control of remote devices at your ham shack. You can control pretty much anything. I mean, it's just amazing what you can do. You can hook it up to anything and write your own program if you're capable. You can, like I said earlier, you can interface with Raspberry Pis and use different input-output boards. You can send environmental data, interface with other applications such as ATAC. ATAC is the Android Tactical Assault Kit. Some of you may be familiar with it. It's sort of like a almost military-style team coordination system where you can see your teammates on a map and they can report dangers and troubles and you can see where they are. So like if the world went to hell, you could have your family and friends get ATAC going and you could coordinate efforts so that you can avoid problems. Like don't go over there because there's bad guys over that way, and you could highlight and identify those threats.
Have you seen any search and rescue traffic on this?
I've seen people toying with the idea, not in any official capacity yet, but it can be used.
That ATAC thing, that alone sounds like that's an application for a search and rescue operation.
Absolutely, it could be used for that right now. Because they use ATAC for those things, but they use it with really expensive radios. I think, what do they call, Bear Talk or something? Are you familiar?
Beartooth.
Yeah, Beartooth, and they're really expensive. But the government agencies and military already use ATAC, but now you can use it on a very inexpensive device, easily. Hardware, there's different chipsets, the NRF52 based chipset, ESP32 based chipset, and then of course the Raspberry Pi where you can stick a hat on there that has either of those chips. Devices that I recommend, I tell everybody go with the NRF52 chipsets because the batteries last forever. I mean, if you go with the ESP32, you're talking a comparison from an hour on an ESP32 to like days on an NRF52 chipset. Additionally, the NRF52 devices flash very easily. You can just mount the folder on your computer's hard drive, drag the new firmware in, and it automatically reboots and the deal's done. Whereas with the ESP32, you have to go through the web flasher process. And, they're making it better and better, but I just think that the NRF52s are easier to update. A lot of different manufacturers out there, Rack, Wisblock. My favorite is the Station G2. It's not really the best unit for like a mobile thing or for battery efficiency. I have two of them in this super node here, but this thing is PoE powered. It's not battery powered. So this thing will actually get city power, and it'll go into an already power backed up system with UPSs and everything. LilyGo makes a TDAC Plus, which you saw over there. It looks like a BlackBerry. This is the T Echo. These are really popular, and a lot of people have them. I like them. Then Wisblock, Rack Wireless makes a Wismesh version of their Wisblock little boards where it's already pre-built, so it's not a DIY type of a thing. You can actually buy it ready to go out of the box. There's a lot of different, recommended devices. Rack Wisblocks are, super low power usage. You're going to find that they're the most popular board out there to use for a repeater node, or in a lot of cases for a mobile node. The T-beams, T-Echo, T-beams, the LilyGo devices are the second most popular. The Heltechs are good too. I don't have that listed on here, I don't think. Heltechs are good too. They're less popular than the others, but they're starting to make some new advancements that are starting to catch them up. There's the Wismesh on the lower right-hand corner. And that device is becoming pretty popular too, but to me it's bigger. I think it's bigger than the LilyGo device, so this is more compact to me. Good quality antennas are helpful in making the most of what the radios can do. A lot of people go out there and they'll buy a Meshtastic device and they'll go, I want to put a 100 dB gain antenna on it. And the beam is like a laser beam. It's like there's no vertical, you know, no vertical wedge to communicate down. I mean, it's really good for almost near point to point, but you know, you want something with lower dB. Lower dB antennas, like a 5 dB antenna, is going to work way better than like a 12 dB antenna, just because of the way the mesh network works. You want to have spread. If you're doing something for distance, I recommend don't use a high gain, you know, mono antenna or whatever. Use instead a Yagi and aim it where you want it. If you're trying to bridge two locations together, that's going to get you the result you want. And then when you want to provide coverage, use like a 5 to 6, maybe 8 dBi max antenna, and it'll go great. The OTI unit that I have up there is one of the best node coverages up there. It's only like 5 dBi. So this is where I show you about the super node here. This node, I built 4 of these. This is designed with 2 Station G2 Meshtastic units in it. I've got PoE converters that are powering independently each of the Station G2 Meshtastic nodes. They're both set up as repeaters, and the way that right now I have 2 little antennas on it just so I don't burn the finals on these units. I mean, I have to have an antenna on there. They're actually transmitting right now. If you have a mesh unit, you'll see it'll say AYB Yagi. Those are the 2 different units in there. This one is designed to go on either Mount Laguna or Otay, but I think we want to put it on Mount Laguna to try to bring connectivity from Arizona to San Diego, because there's a huge community of users in Arizona that need to bridge to other communities, and that desert is just killing them because there's no population in the middle with mesh nodes. So that's what this is designed for. I've got 2 Yagis already ready to go. Obviously I didn't bring them because they're too big to set up in here. And this thing has been just beautiful. I have one up right now and it's just works like clockwork. I have cavity filters in there so that they're tuned specifically to 906 megahertz, and that keeps the noise floor at acceptable levels. It also avoids crosstalk from other LoRa and ISM band devices such as SDG&E. They use it for their metering systems and stuff, but they use a slightly higher frequency. So by putting the cavity filters in there that are tuned, I can eliminate the crosstalk from that and just get a lot better response and coverage from it.
So if I set this near my smart meter, I can jam them?
Well, it's on 906 megahertz, so yeah, I mean, you'd have to up the frequency a little bit, which you can by changing the channel. The Meshtastic network in San Diego, you can see here, there's a lot of blue dots. That isn't even a part of the actual coverage that exists in San Diego. In San Diego, there are thousands and thousands of users. A lot of them do not share their location on the maps, so they don't show up on the dots. They're not, you know, they're intentionally not publishing their location. You're going to find that everywhere you go, there's mesh, even if it's not showing up on the map. Los Angeles has a very large mesh network. The Bay Area has a very large mesh network, and it's growing daily. More about the Bay Area mesh network, I just threw that on there because I like the picture. It shows that people are strapping them to their chimneys and everywhere.
Hey, Norm.
Yeah.
How is it possible we're seeing that Bay Area node come down here?
There's a lot of people use a system called MQTT that allows you to reach nodes that aren't in your local mesh. But that's kind of cheating. You know, like in ham radio, when we link repeaters together with digital means, it's kind of cheating. It kludges it, it gets it done, but it's not really in the spirit of like true ham radio, right? But we still do it anyways because it's still pushing the technology envelope. With Meshtastic, it's sort of the same thing. A lot of mesh purists say, don't connect your nodes to the internet because it's cheating. We want to build the mesh by spreading the mesh, not by using shortcuts. You'll see that you'll get a node that's up in San Francisco or whatever that's showing up through MQTT, or someone has their location set wrong. You can hard code your location, and if you travel, it still shows that you're in San Francisco, but you might actually be in San Diego. So when the signal shows up in San Diego, you're like, wait, this guy is on the map in San Francisco, but I see his node showing up in the list, but he's really not actually, in San Francisco. He's just here. It's just he set his latitude and longitude hard coded. You can see here, this is an old graph, a couple months old. The Bay Area Meshtastic network started charting how many nodes were appearing over the weeks, and you could see it had exponential growth. And this was just a while back. Now it's just taken off. From what they told me, this chart should now go over 2,000 nodes over the same period of time. Setting up a Meshtastic device is super easy. You get the device, you charge it up, power it on, download the Meshtastic app in your phone, and then use Bluetooth to connect to it. When you connect to the device, it shows a Bluetooth pin number on the screen, or if it doesn't have a screen, because some Meshtastic devices don't, it uses the default, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You pair it to the device, and then the very first thing you do is just pick the country that you're in, the United States, and then that's it. You can put a name in. There's a short name and a long name. The short name is a 4-character name. Mine is AYBA, so if you see me cruising around, that's AYBA is me. One of my units is an alien head. You can actually use, what's it called? Emojis. You can paste an emoji in there, but it's only 4 characters. So it's either you have 4 characters or less than 4 characters, or you paste 1 emoji in there, because you can't do an emoji plus 3 characters. It's like the emojis, actual ASCII backup symbols, take up the entire byte. So you can't do both. So you'll see a lot of people on the mesh map that have an icon instead of like an actual name. The long name, in my case, is like all your base R belong to us is this node right here. That's the long version of your short name. Ham mode, you can use up to 10 watts, I told you that earlier. You can also use higher gain antennas under Part 97. The cons, you can't join the default mesh group. Everybody talks on the default mesh group. That's where all the CQs are going, all the radio checks and, hey, I'm here, can you copy? All that stuff is going on there. Also, you can't use encryption because, being a ham, you're not allowed to encrypt your data. How to join the San Diego mesh. Basically, you get a node, you set it to the default like I just said, make sure it's in long, fast, default encryption with a blank channel name, and that's basically it. You're already ready to mesh. It's that easy to do. We have a Discord channel in San Diego that you can get help with. Steven, you created that group? Is it?
Yeah.
He created the mesh group, and that's how I first, got into the community. My wife introduced me to Meshtastic, and then I found your Discord, and then I talked to you and everybody else in there, and that's when I just started going crazy with it. I was like, wow, there's other people out there doing it too. It's even funner now. So if you want to join, if you have Discord, you can use this QR code to join the Discord group, and I do recommend you get in there because great group of very smart people, hams and non-hams. We talk about ham things, we talk about non-ham things, we talk about everything. So we welcome you there and hope to see you there. I have a YouTube channel where I'm always posting information on Meshtastic and a lot of other technological adventures that I go on. I like to explore abandoned radio sites and things like that. So you'll find that kind of stuff on there as well. You can do that, or you can go to my website, Kilo Echo 6 Victor Delta Whiskey.com, and I have a YouTube link there. Coverage is growing. I'm telling everybody I know who owns tower sites or peer sites, any kind of mast on their house that's at good elevation, put a node there. Help us out. Help us grow the network. If you buy a node, don't buy one. Buy two. Put one up on a tower above your house and use one inside your house in client mute mode. That's the best way you can help the mesh. The one on top of your roof should be like in client mode. The one in your house should be in client mute mode. And you'll help spread the mesh without damaging it. And we'll be very thankful for all the nodes that you put up. We still have a number of repeater sites and private property that we're negotiating with to put various types of equipment at, including mesh nodes. Ballooning. This is the fun new Meshtastic thing. A lot of balloon launches have happened recently, and San Francisco Hot Air Balloon Group does this, and now they do it with amateur radio, but now they're doing it with Meshtastic as well. So every time they launch, they're also putting a Meshtastic node on there, and the Meshtastic guys are having fun hunting the balloons down and tracking their progress, and then helping them find it. What's going on? I don't have a ham radio back here, but so that's something really fun you can get involved in. Developers, if you're a programmer, PHP, C, C++, Perl, Java, anything that you want to do, there are APIs to where you can directly control your Meshtastic node, communicate with it, send messages, receive messages, control the pins on the headers on the devices. Further resources are meshtastic.org. That's where it all started. They have their own Meshtastic YouTube. It's the official one. Ham Radio Crash Course, which we all know, also does a lot of coverage of Meshtastic. That's a really great channel to watch. And the comms channel, TC2, Ham Radio 2.0 is really, really good. Etsy sells many pre-built nodes. If you want to buy a solar node that's solar powered and stick it on your roof, you can go to Etsy and some dude will ship it to you and it's ready to go. You plug it, you program it, plug it in, strap it on a mast on your house or sit it next to your ham radio, whatever you want to do. If you don't want to build it, it's already built for you. They also sell cases, like these little backs, this colored back on my Liligo. He actually 3D printed this for me. But they sell these online too, or he could probably sell them to you as well. I don't know if that's what you want to get into. A lot of people are going to be calling you now. Like for example, this one he customized for me. It actually says San Diego Repeater Association, SANDRA on it, and it's got my call sign on it. And that's it. Have fun meshing around. Any questions?
Norm, you mentioned early on that if you're in a low place, it's actually bad for the network. Is that because it gets transmitted to your low spot and then you can't get out except back to the one that is not allowed to be transmitted?
Yeah, it's
a dead end or something?
The answer to it is complicated in a lot of ways. It has to do with the way the flood routing works. If you have a node that's in a low-lying area and it's trying to pass something through you and it can get in, but your antenna isn't powerful enough to get out, like let's say there's a node that's on a really high height is might location, right?
Yeah.
You're able to receive it, but if you have trouble sending messages out from inside your house or from or from even your front yard, once that hop hits your device, it's kind of going to get stuck in there like a pinball machine and have nowhere to go because your antenna isn't powerful enough to get out. So what I recommend is you put a node on your roof at a higher location and have that in client mode, and then the unit you have in your house you put in client mute mode. That way your node won't respond to the public transit system, so to speak. It'll let the node on your roof do it. Because what you don't want to do is have a node on your roof, receive a packet, transmit it down to you in your house, and then it has nowhere else to go because your antenna can't transmit it out. And then there's a thing called reciprocity. That is where, like for example, I could aim a 30 dBi parabolic dish with Wi-Fi on it to my phone, right? And I could get the phone like 2 miles away. I could see the signal. but the phone doesn't have enough juice to transmit back. So you're missing half of the acknowledgement, synchronization equation. So you don't, you can receive, but you can't send. So that if I went and I put like a 40 dBi dish on a tower, even though the signal of this phone is really weak, the dish on the other end is a lot more sensitive. It has bigger ears, so it can pick up even the faintest signals, right? So in Meshtastic, it's sort of the same thing, where if you use an antenna that is really low gain, right, you can hear those giant, tower sites that are transmitting out, but you can't transmit back. But you might get lucky and somebody has a really high gain antenna that has a lot more sensitivity, so your packet will get out. The whole thing that I'm trying to describe is it makes it a little challenging because you don't know, you can't predict what circumstances you'll find your mesh node in. As you're traveling around, you might be unknowingly scraping packets out of the sky, and you're in an area where you can't retransmit, so you're relying on the flood routing to catch other nodes and pass it through. But we're trying to give the packets a better success rate. We want them to live. Let the packets live, and that's basically what it's all about. Just giving the packets every possible chance that we can so that they survive the trip and make it to the other nodes. The mesh network is becoming more and more reliable as we grow. I mean, it has really, really come a long way. I mean, in a year from now, I think it's going to be acknowledgments constantly. When you transmit, you'll know if your message went through because you'll see acknowledged. I mean, right now, there's like 25% of those don't go through. But you do it again a couple seconds later and it goes through. So I've seen it go from the other direction where 10% of them would get acknowledged and the rest just drop to the floor. But now it's improved greatly. So that's the answer to your question. I kind of rambled on.
For that. And your maps of San Diego were only of South San Diego.
Yes.
Is there a lot in North County as well?
There's a lot of nodes in North County. There's one in particular that I'm trying to replace right now, is the Palomar node. The guy who operated the Palomar node sort of like rage quit the game. I don't know what happened, but I mean, I do know what happened, but there's no point in talking about it. But he just decided, I don't want to support mesh anymore, and removed the node, and it was unfortunately one of the most successful nodes that was placed. So right now I'm trying to get another mesh node up on Palomar.
So on your node list, when you look at that, and let's say your node, or his node, or my node, whatever, you will see hops will have a question mark, or zero hops.
Right.
Are you hitting that node directly?
Right. Depends on what firmware you're on. Firmware has a lot to do with it. If you're on an older firmware, you see a lot of weird question marks and kind of vague messages that don't really identify what's actually going on. The newer firmwares, like I think I'm on 2520, I think that's the latest one right now, but I get everything that I get has the bunny rabbit next to it and says how many hops it is, or if it's direct. I don't really see those question marks anymore. I don't have an actual answer to your question because I think it's just a bug in the firmware, to be honest. Unless anyone else here knows the answer to that. No? Yeah, bugs. Gremlins, they got wet. Anything else?
Have you heard of Mesh Core, and do you have any plans on supporting it?
Yeah. Mesh Core is something I've been toying around with a little bit. I was playing with it a couple weeks ago, and I got a little frustrated. It was crashing and having problems, and I got busy with other things, so I kind of put it on pause at the moment. But I do intend on looking at it. The reason is this: when you go to Vegas, you don't always bet on just red. You have to put an insurance bet on black. So if you got two different competing technologies, and one is growing slow and the other's already there, and who knows which one's going to prevail in the end. So I do, and I will experiment with it and play with it more, and I will make a YouTube video about it and let you know my findings. I want to play with everything mesh because I do think that it is a very serious technology, and if we master it, it can really, really be good.
Yes. I've seen a couple of comments. I have not done a lot of reading, but have seen a couple of times people mention that they set up their their device up on their house or a little tower in their yard, and then they have to do some sort of update, and it's a giant pain. Does that basically solve that?
Well, no, it's not. You know, over-the-air updates, I've never, and I've been doing this since the beginning of Meshtastic, I've never had it work, not even once. My recommendation is if you're going to put a node in a high location, there's a couple ways you can handle the situation. One is do it with a Raspberry Pi and a Pi hat, and give yourself remote access to the Raspberry Pi. I, for example, have internet on all of my tower sites, so it's easy for me. You might not have internet there though, but there's other ways you can do it. You can do a Pi hat on a Raspberry Pi with like a SIM hat where you can put a SIM chip in it, and you can, over the cellular network, VPN in to your device over like a 3G or 5G or LTE signal and maintain it and control it that way. There's other ways to do it too, is that some devices like these Station G2s, you can actually hook up like remote USB. They have these little USB adapters that you can put an IP address on them, and then it plugs into your USB-C, and then at home you connect to it using a piece of software, and it gives you the serial connection as if you're sitting right in front of the computer. That works really well. There's only one trick to it. You still need to have some way to push the buttons on the side of the radio, okay, to trigger the firmware update. So what I've done is I removed the buttons, and I put little like opto isolators in there to a Raspberry Pi, and I use a little script on the Raspberry Pi to trigger the pins to push the buttons for me. Anyways.
I saw somewhere recently also somebody had a tower with a flat top on it, and they just sat down with a UAS, UAV.
Yeah.
They just dropped it on top of their tower.
The drone?
So maybe if you had one that could pick it back
Magnets.
up, you can play the clog in.
A lot of people are doing that with magnets. They'll put magnets on the bottom of their node, and they'll just stick it to some random tower. I have to say something. This is important, okay? There's a law in this country called trespass. And I know, and I see a trend of people using drones, or they just go hiking with a grandiose idea of, I'm gonna stick this on that tower. They don't care who owns it. They just zip tie it to the tower and then they go hike away. Your fingerprints are all over the damn thing, my friend. If you're putting that on a federal site, you're trespassing. And if they can prove you interfered with signals on their site, that's a whole lot of prison time. And I strongly discourage people from doing that. As much as I love the fact that they're spreading the mesh and all that, I strongly advise against it. And if you do it 3 times in a row, that's a RICO crime. That's organized crime. Just saying. Yeah. So I also want to comment on something. As John was saying earlier about the 220 band, the FCC is doing a lot of crazy things. There's a company called NextNav that is trying to take the ISM band away. Not really take it away, but they're trying to become the primary user of the band right now. And it's in FCC right now. I've submitted complaints against it. NextNav has no business stepping on and squatting on our frequencies. The ISM band, billions of dollars of electronics communicate on this band right now. Hobbyists, enterprise networks, agriculture, farmers are tracking their cattle with the ISM band. And this company wants to come in and become the primary user. And it's a shame because, the people that are complaining against it are going, oh no, you're going to interfere with us. It's going to cause interference. And NextNav came back to the FCC and said, well, it's really cool that they're complaining and they're story making and creating and over exaggerating a problem that doesn't exist. So they're demanding that the people who use the ISM bands, ham radio operators being one of them, submit actual technical scientific data showing how their use of the band will clobber the investment that American companies and experimenters have already put into the band. So please look it up on the web. If you want to contact me, I'll give you links to it. But write letters to the FCC and use your technical prowess and know-how to write technical data and articles about interference, why, when, how, what, and everything. so that they have exact science, so that we can compete against, we can actually go against NextNav and beat them. Because NextNav cannot win this. If they win this, the next thing they're going to squat is our ham bands. They're coming for them. And you know what they're trying to do? They're trying to make a new GPS. We have GPS. That's what they're trying to do. So, got a little heated for me. Any other questions? Hearing none, seeing none? All right, well, we'll wrap this up. Thank you very much, guys. Feel free to contact me. I love talking about this stuff, so get my email address. It's nj@kilo echo 6 victor delta whiskey.com.
Very good, man.
Thank you.